There was still too much time left until 10. It seemed to drag on terribly slowly. It felt as if I'd walked half of Tokyo, and the minute hand was yet to go a full circle once more. It was surprising how quickly my friends became foes and then friends again. Himitsu, Michael, even Cheryl Winters. I was stumbling from one person to another looking for help, support, or at least understanding. Did I really not care about who exactly they were, as long as they were telling me what I wanted to hear? Interesting. Are their principles more important than life? I could be mad at Michael or Mrs. Winters as much as I wanted, but if they could help me... But I still let Himitsu and heard her out, and this got me into a conflict with Catherine's mother. So is my connection with Himitsu stronger than my concern for Katya? No. No, it isn't. I knew perfectly well how it could end. The first day of October in Tokyo turned out to be surprisingly autumn-like. Not very cold, but cloudy and damp. The air was filled with that particular aroma of wet leaves that can only be felt for a couple weeks of the year. Soon the rains would wash away the remaining smells of summer, the night frost would take away the remaining warmth of the earth, and the autumn of Pushkin would give place to one of Tyutchev. The fuck? I spent a good hour hiding behind a tree, having chosen a spot with a good view on the footpath. These precautions were probably excessive, but I'd better be safe than sorry. At 10 and change, I saw a lonely silhouette in the dim light of the lanterns. It was Michael. He was walking slowly, as if on his evening walk. You got a tail? When he came closer, I stepped out from behind the tree. Michael jumped. Don't think so. You don't think so, or you don't have it? I don't work for the CIA, so I can't exactly be sure. Well, some do. I briefly told him about Catherine's mother, her real job, and the things that had happened today and yesterday. You didn't know? No. Michael didn't respond immediately, but didn't look particularly surprised either. And how's it going with Ellie? Seems like they're finally taking us seriously. That us was so grating that I unconsciously winced, like I'd bitten into a lemon. There was something in it, like the disgusting little desire to be a part of something bigger than you are. Like how a petty thief feels invincible once he's in a gang. Really? I got a reply from Kobayashi Jun. He asked for some time to think it through. Wasn't that nice and dandy? But that's not the most important part. He suddenly smiled and started talking quickly, stumbling over his words as if telling me about winning a lottery. I find out where they keep Catherine, and we're going to save her. He hoisted a big black handbag I hadn't noticed before over his shoulder. Hold on a second. I waved my hands. How could you manage to learn where she is just so easily? Nobody said it was easy, but my father also has some leverage. Events I didn't understand kept happening around me. Moreover, I was finding it hard to believe that they were actually really happening at all. I thought he was going to blackmail Kobayashi to do whatever it was that he wanted to do. Why would he need Catherine? Well, let's say our interests aligned. This shit won't end well, was what my mind was telling me. But my mental brakes had long since been cut, and I was rushing down a slope, hoping there wasn't a cliff behind the next bend in the road. How very convenient. Alright, I'm all ears. Catherine was kept in an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. Really? Mayhaps we know the spot already then. According to Michael's info, she wasn't heavily guarded because no one expected guests. In the bag, there were 2 black turtlenecks, balaclavas, a crowbar, flashlights, a coil of rope. Why? And even a gas gun. I mean, I also think that's better to be prepared for the worst, but a gun? Mike, what the fuck? How? Dad keeps it in his desk just in case. With every second, whatever it was that was happening to me resembled the reality I was used to less and less. But it was still a chance to save Catherine, if a reckless one. Okay, and what then? We'll hide in my place. The corporation and Japanese intelligence don't seem to know I'm involved, so it should be safe there for now. We? Including me? He frowned for a moment. Of course. I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I'm helping Catherine, not you. I'm trying not to get any ideas at this point. You seem to have doubts. It's strange that you don't. Your Aikido or whatever you learned is one thing, but this... Mike, things won't get better for Catherine if they shoot us there. I can go alone, but we have a better chance of success together. 0 multiplied by 0 is still 0. I grumbled and snatched the turtleneck out of his hands. It turned out to be too narrow for my shoulders, and at the same time the sleeves were too long. We got to the place by taxi, having spent the entire trip in silence. I was staring out of the window the entire time, unable to shake off the feeling that I was doing something wrong. Meanwhile, Michael was carefully studying the plan of the area, printed on a huge sheet of paper that, unfolded, covered the entire back seat. Even though rescuing Catherine was the only thing that mattered to me, our plan appeared to be pure madness. It was as if I was walking a plank with the tip of a rapier at my back. Down in the water were sharks, behind were 100 frenzied pirates. Whatever choice I made, it was the end. But in the first case, there was at least a chance that the sharks had already had breakfast. Yep, damn, who would have thought it'd be this warehouse? It seemed that there used to be a factory in this part of Tokyo, but then it was abandoned, and in the dark of the night, the area resembled a cemetery. A huge industrial cemetery of the upcoming post-industrial era. Except for us, there didn't seem to be a soul for kilometers around. The moon hid behind the clouds, and silence descended upon us, a silence that couldn't be broken by any sound. The silence of a 1,000-year-old tomb beneath a Gothic cathedral, the silence of the dead, a centuries-long quiet able to absorb any sound. Damn, quite the descriptor. We walked for about a kilometer until Michael stopped and pointed at a large building, overgrown with ivy. It was as silent and dark inside as it was outside. Are you sure? I whispered to him. According to the map, yes. He tried to unfold the map again, but I stopped him. Okay, and how are we going to get in? I'd guess not through the main gate. Besides, it turned out to be locked shut. Michael started thinking while I came closer and squinted, trying to see anything in the pitch-black night. Look. In the wall of the building, I noticed a small door. Let's give it a try. The door could be slid aside on wheels that had long rusted through and made a loud screech at the slightest push. Quiet! Michael hissed at me. Unless you've brought some grease with you, I see no other options. Wait a minute. Help me! He tried to lift the door on one side. I understood his idea and grabbed the other one. Together we soon managed to move the door to the side and make a narrow opening, which was, however, big enough to make our way in. We were standing, panting, and looking at each other, listening to the silence of the abandoned warehouse. Even if there's someone here, it doesn't seem like they noticed us. Michael nodded. Or they're just pretending to lure us into a trap. After a few more moments of hesitation, I squeezed myself through the opening. The inside was even darker than the street, and it took some time for my eyes to adjust. Using flashlights didn't seem like a sensible idea, but how else would we search for Catherine in this huge space if we couldn't even see what was under our feet? Took a few careful steps forward and stopped, stumbling on a crate. Michael was walking behind me, and once I stopped moving, bumped into me. What is it? It's pitch black in here. I can't see a thing. So turn on your flashlight. Turn on your flashlight. I mocked him. So they'd see us? Nick? I heard a familiar voice, or rather a whisper. Nick, is that you? Fearing all caution, I threw myself in the direction of the voice and found Katya tied to a massive steel beam. I'm here. Wait. I tried to untie the rope with my hands, but failed. Take the knife. I turned around and looked at Michael in the befuddlement, failing to understand what he wanted of me, but still took the Swiss knife he handed me. Oh. When the rope was cut, Catherine fell upon my neck and broke into sobs. Nick, I thought I was going to die. I thought they'd kill me. There. I was trying to calm her down, even though I was shaking all over myself. Where are they? I don't know. They come and go, bring food and water once a day. Indeed, next to her there were a few small empty water bottles and food wrappers. Let's discuss this later. Right now we need to get out of here before they come back. It'd be stupid to argue. Can you stand? I helped Katya stand and held her up when her legs failed. No longer much caring for the noise and the light, we got outside and started walking away from the abandoned warehouse as quickly as we could. I'd only been to Michael's apartment once or twice before, so the relative neatness of this room made a good impression on me, especially compared to Kyosuke's dwelling. The entire way I kept thinking that coming here wasn't the best idea, but after seeing Catherine's condition, I knew that healing and regrouping mattered most right now. Where's your dad? Katya lay down in bed and put a wet towel on her forehead. I sat down next to her while Michael sat on the chair in front of the computer. He's not going to be home for a couple of days. That's not an answer. He's handling some work-related issues. Michael glanced at Catherine, hinting that I shouldn't talk about it in her presence. I didn't understand why, but decided to let it go. Do you feel better? I asked. On the way there, Katya was constantly in a half faint, and the driver even refused to take us at first, so Michael had to pay him double. It's your goddamn Japan. I wish I'd never see it again. I remembered her mother's words, that Catherine was the one who wanted to come back, and smiled. Do you know who kidnapped you? You won't believe it, but they were Japanese. But who exactly? Kobayashi Corporation or Japanese intelligence? They didn't introduce themselves. She scoffed. I was just coming back home, and right at the entrance to the house, somebody put a bag over my head and stuffed me into a car. Catherine shuddered. What do they want from me? Not from you, from your mother. Spent the last few days enjoying her company and learned a lot of new things. Not that much, to be honest, but enough. Mom, is she alright? More than alright, I'd say. Even too alright for this situation. Nick, you don't think that... Of course I don't. I carefully took her by the hand and managed to catch Michael's annoyed glance. There was a lot about him that was making me worry. Well, what exactly did he expect? But I'm not going to pretend that I understand her. Of course, the documents Himitsu had brought changed my opinion about Ms. Winters. This wasn't the time to talk about it. In any case, Mom will help us. I'd like to think so. Except I wouldn't say we parted ways on friendly terms today. Besides, Ito is waiting for me at home. I want to dump it all on you at once. Ito? And Himitsu? Why am I not surprised? Catherine suddenly smirked. Well, Himitsu didn't do anything wrong this time. I can even thank her for... I caught myself. I mean, Ito has been spying on me for a while anyway. So what are we going to do? Kachi gripped my hand tighter. I was about to answer, but Michael didn't let me. It would be safer for you two to stay here for the night, and tomorrow I'll have to meet my man, hear Kobayashi's response. Catherine looked at me, puzzled. Michael is working on a clever plan to influence Kobayashi Corporation. You see... I smiled dumbly. I'm very grateful to you, too. Catherine slightly pushed herself up and turned her head towards Michael, but immediately gasped and fell back onto the pillow. You're welcome, he replied in a cold and even irritated tone, as if he was accepting a thank you for fulfilling a difficult obligation. To be honest, I can't say I expected it. We don't know each other at all. Now it was my turn to clench her hand. We only managed to save you thanks to Michael. My unnaturally enthusiastic tone sounded fake. It's like you figured out where they were keeping me. I couldn't hear any skepticism in Catherine's voice, but I doubted that meant she completely trusted Michael. And she shouldn't. I don't completely trust Michael. You need to rest. Let's talk tomorrow. She removed the towel for a second, looked at me, but didn't argue. Okay, but please, don't go anywhere. I cast a quick glance at Michael and smiled apologetically. He sighed and walked out of the room, saying, You two should sleep. You don't trust him? I asked Katya when we were left alone. I don't know. Call it intuition, but it seems that he's pursuing his own goals. I think so too. At least romantic goals. Are you jealous? You bet. I leaned over and kissed her, but Catherine immediately let out a groan. Oh, don't. My head is splitting. Sorry. What do we do next? Michael has photos of Kobayashi Jun's granddaughter. He's the head of Kobayashi Corporation. Photos of her buying drugs. He was trying to use them to make these people let you go. But why is he helping us? Good question. Although I would phrase that differently, why wasn't he taking all the credit? Why was I here? However, right now, Catherine needed to rest. I'll sleep, I don't know, on the floor. Just lie next to me. She tried to lightly pull me to her. I have serious doubts that this fuck pad would fit 2 people. Wanna test that? Katya asked me playfully. I thought you had a headache. Oxytocin is a well-known painkiller. What? How do you know this shit? What if I want to go to medical school? Do you? What if? I kissed her again, and this time Katya reciprocated. You know, when Mom said that she had to go to Japan again, I could have stayed with my grandma in the U.S. I know. I blurted out without thinking. How? Catherine suddenly pushed me away. Well, your mom told me. Interesting. Doesn't sound like her. What if she suddenly started believing in our love? Uh-huh, sure. She smirked. About your mom. Since we've become so open with each other, I decided not to postpone this difficult conversation. Although I don't understand why she was so seemingly passive after you were kidnapped, that isn't a crime in itself. But I've also found out that she may possibly have had something to do with my parents' death. How'd you find that out? Let's say I saw some evidence. What evidence? Sufficient evidence, Katya. I doubt the CIA has an official form that you need to fill in and sign to kill a person. I agree that my mom is no saint, but... Suddenly she went silent and turned to the wall. I don't even know who to believe anymore. When they caught me, I thought I'd die. In that warehouse, how much time has passed? Around a week, I think. It felt like a lifetime to me. When you don't know what will happen to you the next minute. Catherine started to cry. Oh no. I lay next to her and hugged her. You said a week. You think that's enough to lose your mind? I didn't know what to say. It's probably enough to look back and see the mistakes you've made. This isn't your fault. No, it is. At least my indecisiveness and cowardice are. I'm just pretending to be all responsible and mature, but at the most important moment I got cold feet and let my mom decide everything for me. Katya, if this is about the pregnancy again, I'm not blaming you for anything. But I'm blaming myself. I felt ashamed, understand? I returned to Japan and saw no hatred in your eyes. You just didn't know anything because you never read that letter, but I sunk so deep into self-loathing that I couldn't react sensibly. See? I returned to walk upon the gallows and accept my just punishment, but the executioner happened to be on holiday. I wasn't prepared to keep living with that sense of guilt. I was desperately waiting for the day when you would just spit in my face and say that you don't want to know me anymore. I would never. And then, when I found myself so close to death, tied up, alone, I suddenly wanted to live so badly. Has everything I've done really earned me a second chance? Of course. I hugged her so tightly that Catherine let out a moan. Don't. I'm so dirty. I haven't taken a shower in forever. I don't care. Nick, if we could start everything over again, and just forget the last 2 years. Like we met each other yesterday. You'd make lame jokes, and I would pretend I'm not interested in it at all. But can we... Do I deserve forgiveness? But we don't need to forget. We can just leave the past behind and move forward, and in 10 years we'll look back and laugh at how silly we were. 10 years. Nick, are you sure? I've never been so sure about anything in my life. My hands were long living their own life and unfastened a few buttons of her blouse. Y'all, come on, don't fucking Kyosuke's room, not Kyosuke, in Michael's room like that. Come on. That's a bit much. That's a bit much, right? Like, I get you're kind of showing off a little bit, be like, yeah, look, Catherine likes me, Michael, what are you gonna do about it? But then, like, to get freaky in Michael's bed, in Michael's apartment, while Michael's in the actual apartment, like, come on. There's some lines to be crossed there. Won't Michael mind? Screw him. Catherine fell asleep and almost stopped breathing. Put my ear against her chest and only then heard the gentle beat of her heart. The bed was indeed too small for two, and I had to push myself against the wall so that Katya would have enough space to sleep comfortably. Deep inside, I wanted to believe that we would be together again, but even in the most foolish dream, I couldn't have hoped for such a degree of openness and intimacy. This day brought our relationship to a level where, it seemed, nothing could ever stand in the way of our love. You'll love to see it. But how does it end? 'Cause I know we're far from the end, buddy. During the night, I had torn a small piece of paper from a sheet and put it on the door handle. In the morning, it was on the floor. Of course, even the slightest breeze would have been enough to move it, but the idea that Michael might have watched us sleep made me shudder. Sure, he couldn't not have heard us having sex, but it's still not the same. Although, however I looked at it, the situation was strange and even stupid. Catherine was sleeping peacefully, and I carefully slipped out from between her arms and left the room. Michael was nowhere to be found. There was a note, placed where it would be easy to find. He wrote that he had some things to take care of, and that he'd only come back in the evening. He asked us not to worry and stay put. Mrs. Winters was one thing, after all. She was from the CIA. But Michael... Suddenly I felt trapped, and like I was suffocating. Yes, Katya and I were together again, but the whole world was against us. I was watching Catherine sleep and couldn't bring myself to look away. When she finally opened her eyes, it was already noon. What time is it? 12 o'clock. And what year is it? I smiled and caressed her hair. Are you hungry? Michael isn't here, but his kitchen is way better stocked than mine. And where is he? She asked, now fully awake. He wrote that he needed to take care of something. I gave her the note. Catherine quickly ran her eyes over the text and threw it away. I don't like this. It's not like he has to sit around and guard us, right? I don't know who I was trying to reassure more, Catherine or myself. Nick, he's scaring me. Catherine got up and put her clothes on. I wanted to say something object, but couldn't find the right words. Michael himself didn't scare me, but he couldn't have been acting alone. There's clearly someone behind him. And that fact was making me understandably concerned. Yeah, no, I wouldn't trust staying there. Especially if Catherine don't. If Catherine's not feeling it, bruh, I'd get out of there. Get out of there. Do you really think we should stay here? Where else can we go? I took a few crumpled banknotes out of my pocket and showed them to Catherine. That's all I have. Unless you brought your wallet with you. She looked at me admonishingly. Sorry. I've already told you. My mom will always help. Wait. She raised her finger formidably, and all the objections I had failed to leave my mouth. I realize you have your reasons not to trust her, but what choice do we have now? A wonderful one, between Celia and Charybdis. No, Charybdis. It's Charybdis. It's some kind of fucking Greek myth. I don't remember what they are. Nick, I don't like that you're demonizing my mom like this. Demonizing? I smirked. After what Himitsu showed me. Yep. I immediately scolded myself for my inability to keep my mouth shut. Although that was to be expected. Watch her face twist. What Himitsu showed you? Catherine instantly livened up. Katya, it's not about her. The documents I was talking about yesterday, Himitsu couldn't have just faked them. You run around wagging your tail like a lapdog no matter what she says. Sorry for wasting your time. I've got to get back to that warehouse. Her words sounded like a joke, but Catherine's tone was serious. She tried to walk out of the room, but I stood in the doorway. Let me through. You don't want to hear anything against your mom, but get angry every time I mention Himitsu. Is that fair? Nobody said life has to be fair. She tried to push her way to the door, and when that didn't work out, started beating her fists against my chest. Not strongly, but very persistently. Small strokes fell great oaks, and eventually I had to grab at Catherine's wrists. God, just stop it, please. The last thing we need right now is a fight. Suddenly she stopped and just hung impotently in my arms. Nick, I'm just afraid. I'm so afraid of the unknown, it's driving me crazy. What will happen to us next? We're together, and that's what matters most. That phrase sounded so cliche it only made me feel worse, but Catherine hugged me tighter. Sometimes it feels like this is all a dream, and that any second I could wake up and find myself alone again. I just don't know how to be happy. Sorry. And then I realized, it was as if our relationship had begun anew. Both of us had gone through a lot in the past 2 years, each in their own way. In the past, I hadn't really been trying to get to know Catherine as a person, to understand what she thought, felt, wished for, loved, and hated. I was simply reveling in my reflection in her, took her love for granted, for an inviolable truth and an unalterable fact. I had never thought what our separation meant to her, and I had only been drowning in self-pity as if I was the only one suffering. You know, I think we've both made our own messes. But I still trust my mom, and I still believe that for her the ends justify the means. Catherine suddenly laughed and buried her head in my shoulder. We can just leave and start a new life, right? We should have enough money for 2 tickets. After all, we can find jobs. Simple ones where they don't ask for experience or education. We can save some money and then leave this country, where only bad things happen to us. Well, I've lived here most of my life, and Japan is much more a home to me than the USSR. But it doesn't matter. Home is where your heart is. My heart is with you. This time the cliche didn't sound fake. It's possible, right? We just need to really want it? To be honest, I wasn't even sure that the couple of crumpled bills I had would be enough to buy tickets. Traveling by train wasn't cheap in Japan. But the desire to dive into sweet dreams with Catherine was too great, and I gave in. Of course. We wouldn't even need to save up too much. We could go to China by boat and then figure something out about passports. What's most important is we go to a place where no one, not the CIA, not the KGB, not the Japanese, would get to us. If there was such a place on this planet. And in just a year, we'll be laughing at all this together. Drinking cocktails in sunbeds. Drinking cocktails in sunbeds. Suddenly the phone in the living room rang. I froze, my heart missed a beat, and the unusual electronic sound echoing the apartment, checking every corner like a checklist looking for the Kulak's family that hides in the cellar. It's obviously not for us. I finally forced out. The phone went silent, but immediately rang again. The sound resembled the synth out of a popular clip from a music show. Nick? Catherine's voice was dripping with anxiety. What if something happened and it's Michael? I was about to answer, but the phone stopped ringing again, only to turn on its piercing siren once more after a couple of seconds. Fine, I guess. I grabbed the receiver and returned to Michael's room. Hello? I can recognize my own voice. Is that you, school bore? I looked at Catherine dumbfounded. Hello? Yes, it's me. It didn't matter how Kobayashi Ellie had Michael's number or even why she was calling him. Much more importantly, why had she been expecting me to pick up? Who's that? Catherine whispered. I covered the receiver with my hand and quietly replied, Kobayashi Ellie. Good, then listen to me. We don't have much time. Just don't think that I'm calling you because... Never mind. Your friend came over and talked to my grandfather. I didn't like him the second I saw him. Not that I liked you, but I think there's at least some good left in you. Besides, you're not alone, and I know that too. But that friend? He asked my grandfather... I stopped mid-sentence. I couldn't even hear the static in the new-fashioned wireless receiver. Finally, she exhaled, clearly putting herself together, and continued. I asked my grandfather to deal with you, and he wanted Caitlin, or was it Catherine? To see everything. And grandfather said they'd already gotten rid of one girl. I don't know whose idea the whole blackmail thing was, but I won't be able to sleep proper knowing I didn't do anything and just kept my mouth shut. So your girlfriend and you need to get out of there quick. How come you have this number? I asked automatically. How the hell does it matter? Well, I've done my part. The rest is up to you. Ciao. The short beeps in the receiver sound like the soundtrack to a science fiction movie. The whole time, Catherine had been carefully listening, having pushed me slightly away from the receiver. We have to run, she proclaimed immediately and resolutely. Wait a second, why would Kobayashi Ellie care about our safety? Fuck, dude, I don't know, but I trust her a lot more than I trust Michael. What she told me about Michael sounds incredibly probable. He kept saying, I'm not doing this for you, I'm doing this for Catherine. I'm not doing this for you, I'm doing this for Catherine. So now he goes to Kobayashi June, he's like, alright, one little thing. You take care of that motherfucker, believe Catherine alive. Like, I believe it. I believe it. I briefly told Kachi the story about the blackmail. So you trust Michael more? Don't you think his behavior is weird? Besides, we're not prisoners here. She's right about that. Michael could ask us to stay at his place, but he couldn't give us orders. Besides, such persistence was indeed suspicious. If it turns out that I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to apologize to him. She could see I was hesitating. Nick, please, let's think about it somewhere else. Okay, fine. Luckily, the front door could be opened from the inside. Was it an accident or oversight on Michael's end?